Hello, my name is Patrick Usher, and in this video I wish to discuss the topic of how long does it take if you're doing a brain rewiring program like the dynamic neural retraining system, which rewires the limbic system out of a hardwired state of crisis, if that being the root cause of POTS, how long does it take then to get better? This is an important question because the dynamic neural retraining system was originally developed for a range of limbic system impairments. So it was only found to work for POTS later, right? It was originally developed for chemical sensitivity. A lot of people with POTS are also chemically sensitive, but it was originally developed for people who just had chemical sensitivity and electromagnetic hypersensitivity and chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. But particularly chemical sensitivity, because that was what its founder, Annie Hopper, suffered from herself initially, very severe chemical sensitivity. So, the reason why it's important to ask this question is because although both chemical sensitivity and POTS, let's imagine someone who just has one and someone who just has the other, although they're both limbic system impairments, different parts of the limbic system are being affected primarily. In my understanding, the cingulate cortex, which is the part of the limbic system which processes smell, is the part that is particularly in overdrive in someone who has chemical sensitivity, whereas the hypothalamus, which is a deeper part of the limbic system and the most primitive part of an already primitive part of the brain, is what's most affected in POTS, because the hypothalamus is what connects down to the adrenal glands with the constant signal through the HPA axis. So that's why there's always adrenaline going off in the person with POTS, because the hypothalamus is sending a message for that adrenaline to be released all the time. Right. So, but although they're both limbic system impairments, if you have someone just with cingulate cortex dysfunction and therefore smell dysfunction, they're not also getting this constant release of adrenaline, which leads to POTS, right? So similar parts of the brain, but they're not actually the same, right? If we're taking a case of someone who just has the one and not the other, although of course they can overlap, as I said. So, what are the implications of this for length of recovery? The real thing is that although chemical sensitivity, of course, will involve many knock-on health effects on the body, because indeed the signal from the brain to the body and the nervous system will still be one of crisis, nevertheless, it is conceivable that the person with chemical sensitivity can recover from that chemical sensitivity using the DNRS program relatively quickly, right? Because it is a direct neurological problem to do with sensory perception. So once you target that, it is potentially possible that the smell sensitivity can change very quickly. Now, this isn't the case for everyone, of course, with chemical sensitivity, but I've definitely seen the cases of people who've been better from the chemical sensitivity for the most part completely within a month, for example, or sometimes even a week. It's possible, although they should always still keep going to the full 6-month mark in order to hardwire those changes. Nevertheless, it is possible because you are directly targeting things at that neurological level. Now, in POTS, it's a little, just to use our example of the person who just has POTS for a moment, it's a bit different because, yes, one can target that what's happening at the neurological level, which you have to do, and switch off the crisis in the hypothalamus, which is always sending out these adrenaline signals. But there is the additional complicating factor of the fact that those adrenaline signals and all the other chemicals that have been released, as in brain chemicals and crisis hormones that have been released over the years or time that you've had POTS, have done huge damage to the body, right? And particularly to the blood vessels. The constant release of adrenaline, for various reasons I go into in other videos on this channel, is, I believe, responsible for the blood vessel constriction problems upon standing, which is why the heart rate beats so much faster upon standing in POTS patients. So all of that, all of those knock-on or secondary, you could say, secondary effects of having a brain in crisis they have to heal up as well, right? And of course they do from multiple chemical sensitivity too, but in multiple chemical sensitivity there's nothing as potentially devastating that can happen to the body as the blood vessel constriction problems. Nothing. So those really take time, right? So I say this because some people come to the DNRS program with POTS and they see these stories of people with chemical sensitivity who recover very quickly, for the most part, or so much better very quickly. And they think, oh, well, because I have a limbic system impairment as well, then why aren't I getting better? Why are my heart rates still high after several months of practice? And the reason for that is because these conditions are not, they both share a root in the limbic system, but they're not primarily the same. So it takes potentially longer for the person with POTS to reach that neurological and physiological place of healing, right? So people should not be discouraged because it takes time for the blood vessel dysfunction to heal up. How long exactly, one can't be sure, but certainly if you do the DNRS for, let's say, 2 or 3 months and you're feeling somewhat better, but your heart rates are still high, keep going, because there's no reason to think that those blood vessels could heal up in 2 or 3 months. They may take 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, a year, maybe a year and a half, to fully heal up. Now, I think a year and a half is at the extreme end. In my own case, it seemed to be about 4 months. And in other cases, even from very extreme blood vessel dysfunction problems as a starting point, I've seen cases of people who've seemed to have got fully better in 6 months. So don't let what I just said there discourage you, because it may take not particularly long time at all. It's a bit of a mystery at this moment because no one's ever studied how fast blood vessel dysfunction can heal up. No one's studied this question. But on the other hand, don't be discouraged if the heart rates that you're experiencing aren't going down yet, because what may be happening is that you are, using the DNRS exercises, you are pushing the limbic system out of crisis successfully, but the rest of your body hasn't had a chance to heal yet, right? So keep going, keep going, and eventually the rest of your body will heal up, and that will be a wonderful moment. So that's the gist from, and I go into it in my book. But as to why it takes longer potentially for the POTS patient, but not always. I had this discussion with Lindsay the other day. Lindsay was the first person I interviewed for the series of people who've recovered from POTS, and she made this point that it takes longer. For her, she felt she was recovered after a year, right? So you just kind of keep on going, right? Things get better and better, but POTS, it's pretty devastating, right? So it's going to take time for everything to heal up. And the other thing is, and this is conjectural, as of course is everything in my hypothesis that I'm putting forward, but that's just the way it is. But also conjectural is that because it's a deeper part of the brain, the hypothalamus and the cingulate cortex, it may take a bit more convincing that life is safe again. So, which is what the DNRS exercises aim to do. So there may also be a reason from that point of view why it takes a bit longer. But the thing is to know that one is targeting the root cause, that it does take time, and it may take longer. So don't be discouraged. Let's say you've done it for 2 or 3 months, and you haven't got to the position you'd want to get to. It may just be the case that it's going to take longer. But don't think that because you read the stories of people with chemical sensitivity saying, oh, they're grand after 2 months. Don't compare, because they're different things are going wrong primarily, and there's reasons to think that what's primarily going wrong with POTS will take longer to sort out. Not necessarily, but it may. Okay, so that's what I want to say about that. I hope you find it helpful. It shouldn't at all be a reason to be discouraged. It's just a matter of being realistic. One should also be aware that, as I say, it can also happen in that standard 6-month time frame. It's hard to say, but the main thing is keep going. Keep going and enjoy the practice and make it part of your day-to-day life anyway, because it's full-time as a dynamic, as someone who recovered from various limbic system impairments using the program, put it in one of the DNRS recovery videos. It's a full-time job being sick, and it's also a full-time job getting better. And you have to choose which full-time job you want, right, of those two. And when you put it like that, I think the choice is obvious enough. But it is the case, and it does take time, right? It does take time, and but trust that if it is true, and everyone knows this, that the autonomic nervous system is the root cause of POTS going wrong, and if it is true, which it is, that the limbic system is the start of the autonomic nervous system, then know that these exercises are bringing that part of the brain out of that crisis state, and then allow the healing to take place in the body over whatever length of time it will take, which will vary from person to person. So thank you very much, and I look forward to your comments on this, and I wish you a pleasant day.